Hey guys, so I was recently asked by a friend, how do you manage the process flow of parts coming into or coming to the machinery or come to the CAM software from engineering and say inventor, and how do we get that into NC Express? The traditional way right now is being somebody is sitting there taking one model at a time, flattening it, creating a DXF, maybe tooling up that DXF, and then creating a separate set of files. Once all of that work is done, then somebody has to go and start the nesting, and then they're looking through usually an Excel spreadsheet or some sort of a cut list and nesting up all of the parts. And you're kind of fingers crossed hoping that you've got everything nested and the right quantities and the bill of materials is all there. Also, there's issues with not nesting on the right material type. So let's see how we can take care of that from the very beginning. I'm working with Autodesk Inventor here, so it's what I'm used to. I've drawn up a simple enclosure. It's got a front door, back door, a top and a bottom, two side panels that are identical, a series of shelves and a couple of mounting rails, and that allows us to mount these shelves in here. I've also got hardware, so there's a door handles, locks and hinges, a couple of PEMs and some nuts. So this is what engineering wants to have produced on the shop floor. That's what we should be delivering as manufacturing engineers. So something else to think about is that in the engineering model, the material type is already set. If I look at the shelf, for instance, and we go to the eye properties of the shelf, we can see that we've set this material to be made from CRS, cold rolled steel. So that's set. Something else we can do is we can create custom tags or metadata for these parts. And I've created a custom metadata tag for this part called turnover, and the value is yes. So that's going to indicate to NC Express that this part should be flipped before bending to the point where I want the inside to be the top side, or that's the painted side if it was a pre-painted material. So I'm defining which way the part is bent up or down, because we're sitting here as the engineer, we know what we wanted. We wanted this part produced a certain way, and that's where the data already exists. So in this enclosure, this is a full assembly. What we're going to do next is go to NC Express, and NC Express is Primapower software for CAM processing. I'm going to import the Autodesk Inventor assembly, and this is quite cool because I don't need a SAT or a STEP or an IGES file. We can work directly with the native files from Inventor, SolidWorks, Siemens NX, whoever you want to use, Creo. So we're going to take this enclosure here and import it. So it's going to bring in all of the parts, and we're going to work within a 3D environment. And what's nice is that NC Express can read the metadata of all of these solid models and tag that metadata to functions within our software. So we're going to be able to specify the correct material type and functions like we said earlier about turning the part over or not. So here's my enclosure. It's in NC Express. If I turn the door off, for instance, you can see the shelves, etc. are in there. So we'll just check that back on. I've got a full assembly. What we're going to do next is look at some of the settings that I have in NCX. I have assembly filters, and what I've done here is I've told it only to import parts that are using the material type CRS, and that's going to eliminate the hardware. The hardware has a different material type. I don't want to see it here. If I had a plexiglass in the door, for instance, that would be material type plexiglass. It wouldn't be included in my processing, which is all a good thing. We can also filter out parts by physical size, so I can filter out any parts that are under, in this case here, 3 inches by 3 inches by 3 inches. If they fit in that box, it's not going to get processed. So again, that eliminates a lot of nuts and bolts and washers that might be made out of mild steel if that's what you've engineered your parts in, but at least I can eliminate them based on size. So this is the button here, magic. This is the button here, process. And when I process, it brings up a list of all of the parts that are actually going to be processed out of this assembly, and you can see that it has filtered out all of the extra pieces that were in there from the hardware. So I have my base pan, my side pan, my top pan, door, rail and shelf. And right now we don't know the material thicknesses. NCX is going to sense the material thickness from the solid model. So I've eliminated a CAM operator accidentally typing in the wrong material thickness. We're going to convert, unfold, save. Auto Tool and make an order. And what are we going to make an order of? We're going to make an order of the enclosure. That's the assembly level I want to make the order from. So it's taking each part and flattening them, tooling them, saving the components that I need for bending later as well. So all of these parts have been done, and now it creates an order. So we can give this an order name, and this could be your order number, but we're going to call it enclosures underscore 50. I want to make 50 of these, and here's where I put my quantity. So this is my kit quantity, and that multiplies up the BOM level quantities and gives me all of the parts that I need. So we've added the order, and that's in the orders database now. We can close out of this screen. There's my part where the metadata, if we look at this shelf, you can see that the metadata for the material was mapped, and also to turn it over was mapped. So this part has the upside on the inside. Normally the upside would be on the outside of the part. Anyway, we go to the database next, and in our orders database I have my new order, and I can select it, and I can check all of the parts that I want and nest them. So this is giving me a nest name. We're going to start with sequence 1, and it's just got some default folders in here of where to find the parts and where to put them when they've nested. This is important. This is going to nest each material type. So right now I've got cold rolled steel 12 gauge, so that's that one nested. We're going to overwrite any previous nests. Now it's going to nest the cold rolled 056 or 16 gauge, and then the 072. So this is the 3 different material types already to be nested. I've got coil nesting turned on here just out of convenience, but so now NC Express will determine the length of the sheets if we had a coil processed materials. So once that's done, I have my 12 gauge is done, my 16 gauge is done, and my 14 gauge is done. All of these nests can now be processed, and what it's doing now is it's doing the optimization, it's placing the tool hits, it's saving out each sheet. So one sheet at a time is getting done here. It's asking for a place to save them, that's fine. So what we have, all of our sheets are nested. We can come back and see in the part directory all of the parts were created. I've got my base pan, my door, my rail, my shelf, side panels, and the top panels. We looked at they were all made within a minute of each other, so that's pretty quick. So if I go to my machine folder, these are the nests, and we can open up each one and just get a look at the setup sheet. So for instance, there's the 12 gauge parts, 22 sheets taking 1 hour and 16 minutes, and then the parts that were, or the tools that were required. That's it. All of the nests are delivered to the machine and we're ready to go. So what did we do? We eliminated any errors that could have occurred in material type selection or material thickness selection, and we got all of the quantities that we needed. This was me manually driving the bus. We can use Tullus Power Processing that will automatically do this processing for us with assemblies, and also activate the auto bend function and start to create bending programs automatically. Maybe I'll follow this up with a video that will show parametric versions of this enclosure being generated from a spreadsheet, but that's for next time. So thanks for watching. Any questions, post below.